The massive station floated in the darkness of space, spinning slowly above a gray and lifeless planet. Inside its great hall, 12 alien species had gathered to decide the future of humanity. The walls were made of a strange metal that changed colors with the mood of the room. Right now, they glowed a cold and unwelcoming blue. Commander Laura Mitchell stood alone on a small platform in the center of the chamber. She wore her best uniform, the one with all her medals and ribbons. Around her, seated in a circle that rose up like the seats in a stadium, were the representatives of the Galactic Council. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some were made of light itself. All of them were looking at her with eyes that held no warmth. Laura had spent 15 years of her life trying to build friendships between Earth and these alien races. She had learned their languages, studied their customs, and treated them with respect. She had believed that if humanity just showed enough patience and goodwill, they would be accepted into the galactic community. Now, standing here alone, she was starting to realize how wrong she had been. The High Arbiter, a tall creature named Veltorak with skin like polished crystal, raised one hand. The room fell silent immediately. When he spoke, his voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "The evaluation of the human species is complete," he said. "We have studied their history. We have observed their behavior. We have measured their potential for both good and harm." Laura kept her face calm, but her heart was beating fast. Everything depended on what came next. "Our findings are troubling," Veltorak continued. "The humans developed weapons capable of destroying their entire planet within 200 years of discovering electricity. They have fought thousands of wars among themselves. They kill each other over resources, over beliefs, over things as simple as the color of their skin." "If I may speak," Laura said, keeping her voice steady. "Yes, our history has violence in it. But it also has art, music, medicine, and exploration. We have cured diseases that once killed millions. We have sent spacecraft beyond our solar system. We have reached out to every species we have met with open hands and peaceful intentions." A harsh clicking sound came from her left. It was the Krellian ambassador, an insect-like creature named Thexvar. His body was covered in hard black plates, and his eyes were like two pools of dark oil. "Peaceful intentions," Thexvar said, his mandibles moving rapidly as he spoke. "Your kind cannot even live in peace with itself. How can we trust you to live in peace with us? You are a danger to the stability of this council. You are a disease that must be contained before it spreads." Laura felt anger rising in her chest, but she pushed it down. Getting emotional now would only prove their point about humans. "We are a young species," she said. "We have made mistakes. But we learn from our mistakes. We grow. We change. Given time, we could become valuable members of this council." The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then Veltorak spoke again. "The council will now vote on the question of human membership." One by one, the votes came in. Each one felt like a hammer blow to Laura's heart. The Velketh, beings of pure energy who had existed for millions of years. Against. The Harmonious Collective, a hive mind of billions of connected creatures. Against. The Krellians. Against. With extra words about how humans should never have been allowed to develop space travel in the first place. The Altheans, a peaceful species that had not voted on anything in 3,000 years. Against. 12 votes. 12 rejections. Not a single species had spoken in humanity's favor. "The decision is unanimous," Veltorak announced. "Humanity is denied membership in the Galactic Council. Furthermore, your species is hereby placed under containment. No human vessel may travel beyond the boundaries of your solar system. Any attempt to do so will be considered an act of war and will be met with overwhelming force." Laura felt the world spinning around her. This was worse than rejection. This was a prison sentence for her entire species. "You are making a terrible mistake," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Thexvar leaned forward in his seat, his oily eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "The only mistake was allowing your primitive species to crawl out of the mud in the first place. Be grateful we do not simply destroy your world and end the threat permanently. Two guards, tall creatures with gray skin and blank faces, appeared on either side of Laura. They took her arms and began to lead her from the chamber. As she walked, she passed the observation gallery where Admiral Kevin Brooks had been watching the proceedings. He was an older man with gray hair and hard eyes. He had served Earth for 40 years and had seen many bad days. But Laura could tell from his face that this was the worst. She leaned close to him as she passed, pretending to stumble. "Contact Admiral Pearson," she whispered. "Tell her Project Shepherd is approved." "We're out of options." Kevin gave a tiny nod, so small that no one else could have seen it. As Laura was taken away, she looked back one last time at the chamber. The alien representatives were already talking among themselves, moving on to other business. Humanity's fate had been decided in less than an hour. To them, it was just another item on the agenda. They had no idea what they had just done. On the long journey back to Earth, Laura sat alone in her small cabin and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Krellian warships were already moving into position around her solar system. In a few weeks, Earth would be completely surrounded, cut off from the rest of the galaxy. Alone. But Laura was not thinking about defeat. She was thinking about a conversation she had 3 years ago with a brilliant scientist named Nathan Cole. He had shown her something that day. Something impossible, something that could change everything. The Council thought they had won. They thought humanity was finished. They had looked at Earth and seen a primitive, violent species that could easily be controlled. They had made the worst mistake in the history of the galaxy. And soon, very soon, they would understand just how badly they had misjudged the people of Earth. 6 months had passed since the Council's vote, and Earth had become a cage. Krellian warships circled the edge of the solar system like sharks waiting for their prey to make a wrong move. Their weapons were always ready. Their sensors were always watching. Nothing got in or out without their permission. Life on Earth had changed. The few alien traders who had been friendly to humans were now forbidden from visiting. Medicine, technology, and rare materials that Earth had been importing were cut off. Factories went silent. Hospitals ran low on supplies. People looked up at the night sky and saw not wonder, but a prison wall. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a bunker that did not appear on any map, Admiral Patricia Pearson stood before a table covered with holographic displays. She was 62 years old, with silver hair cut short and eyes that had seen too much war. She had spent her life protecting Earth from threats both human and alien. But she had never faced anything like this. Around the table stood her most trusted officers. Captain Daniel Hayes, a young man with a calm face and a sharp mind, commanded the carrier Endeavour, the largest ship in Earth's small fleet. Commander Laura Mitchell, recently returned from her humiliation at Thessar Prime, served as Patricia's chief advisor on alien affairs. And Dr. Nathan Cole, the scientist who held the key to everything, waited quietly in the corner with a tablet computer clutched in his hands. "Give me the numbers," Patricia said. Daniel pulled up a display showing the space around Earth. Red dots, representing enemy ships, surrounded a small cluster of blue dots at the center. "They have 312 combat vessels in position. We have 17 ships capable of fighting. Our weapons are weaker, our shields are thinner, and our engines are slower. In a straight fight, we would last about 4 hours. Then we do not fight straight," Patricia said. She turned to Nathan. "Doctor, it is time to tell everyone what you told me." Nathan stepped forward. He was younger than the others, not yet 40. But the weight of his secret had put lines on his face that did not belong there. He touched his tablet, and a new image appeared above the table. It showed a strange object, twisted and dark, floating in the blackness of space. "6 years ago," Nathan began, "one of our deep space probes found this near Neptune. It is a ship, or rather, it was a ship. It is very old, older than the Galactic Council itself, older than any civilization we know of." The officers leaned forward, their eyes fixed on the image. "We brought it back to Earth in secret. We have spent years studying it. The species that built this ship achieved something that no living civilization has been able to do. They created a way to communicate instantly across any distance. No delay, no interference, completely undetectable. Laura's eyes went wide. You mean real-time communication? Across the entire galaxy? Across the entire universe, if we wanted, Nathan said. But that is not all. We also found their engine technology. It allows travel faster than light. Not just a little faster. Instantly. A ship using this drive can be anywhere in the galaxy in seconds. Silence fell over the room. Patricia let them absorb what they had heard before speaking. For 6 years, we have been building ships in secret. Hidden facilities on the Moon, on Mars, in the asteroid belt. The Council has been watching our main shipyards, counting our vessels, feeling confident that they have us outmatched. They have no idea what is coming. Daniel shook his head slowly. How many ships do we have? 127, Patricia said. All equipped with the new drives and communication systems. Every ship in our fleet can talk to every other ship without any delay. We can coordinate like a single organism. And we can appear anywhere we want. Anytime we want. Laura stood up from her chair. Admiral, this changes everything. But I have to ask the obvious question. Why have we not used this before? Why did we let the Council humiliate us? Why did we let them put us in a cage? Patricia's face was hard. Because we hoped it would not be necessary. Because we wanted peace, not war. Because using this technology means revealing that we have it. And once we do, there is no going back. She looked around the table at each of her officers in turn. The Council made their choice. They voted to imprison humanity forever. They decided that we were too dangerous to be free, but not dangerous enough to destroy. They were wrong on both counts. Patricia pressed a button on the table. A countdown appeared on the main display. 48 hours. In 2 days, we launched the largest military operation in human history. Our objectives are simple. We will disable the Krellian blockade fleet. We will not destroy their ships or kill their crews unless we have no choice. We will show the galaxy that humanity cannot be contained. Daniel raised a hand. And after that, once we reveal what we can do, every species in the galaxy will see us as a threat. They already see us as a threat, Patricia said. That is why we are in this prison. The difference is that after tomorrow, they will know that the threat they feared is real, and they will have to decide whether they want to keep being our enemies or start being our friends. Laura nodded slowly. We are not starting a war. We are ending one, the war they started when they voted against us. Patricia allowed herself a small smile. Exactly. The Council wanted to keep us in a cage. They are about to learn that the cage was never strong enough. It was never even close. The officers began to move, each heading to their stations to prepare for what was coming. Patricia stayed behind for a moment. Looking at the countdown on the display, humanity had been pushed into a corner. They had been insulted, rejected, and imprisoned. But they had not broken. They had prepared. They had built. They had waited. And now, finally, it was time to push back. Commander Zexthan of the Krellian fleet was bored. He sat in his command chair aboard the warship Eternal Claw, watching the same empty space he had been watching for 6 months. His crew moved slowly around him, equally bored, equally tired of this pointless duty. The humans were beaten. Everyone knew it. They had their little ships hiding near their little planet. And they had done nothing since the blockade began. Zexthan had hoped for some excitement, maybe a desperate escape attempt that he could crush, but the humans had simply given up. They were weak, just as the Council had said. Zexthan clicked his mandibles in frustration. He had been a warrior once, fighting real battles against real enemies. Now he was a prison guard, watching over a species that did not even have the courage to fight back. This posting was an insult to his honor and to his. Every alarm on his ship screamed at once. Zexthan jumped to his feet, his compound eyes scanning the displays around him. Report! What is happening? His sensor officer, a young Krellian named Vexrin, was staring at her screens with her mandibles hanging open. Commander, I do not understand. Space itself is breaking. Through the main viewport, Zex then saw it. The darkness of space was tearing apart like cloth being ripped by invisible hands. Light poured from the tiers, and from that light came ships. Human ships. Not the 17 vessels his intelligence had told him about. There were dozens of them, then 100, then more, and they were not like any human ships he had ever seen. They moved wrong, appearing in places that should have been impossible, changing position faster than his eyes could follow. They were everywhere at once, surrounding his fleet in seconds. All ships, engage! Zex then screamed into his communicator. Form defensive formation. Target the nearest enemy vessels and fire, but something was wrong with his communicator. His voice went out, but no response came back. He tried again and again, but there was only silence. His fleet, 300 ships strong, had been cut off from each other. Each vessel was alone. On the bridge of the Endeavor, Captain Daniel Hayes watched the battle unfold through his tactical display. Every human ship in the fleet was connected through the quantum communication network. When one pilot saw a threat, every pilot knew about it instantly. When one captain gave an order, it reached every ship at the same time. They were not fighting as a fleet, they were fighting as a single mind with 100 different bodies. Target the Krellian command ship. Admiral Pearson's voice came through clearly from Earth, millions of kilometers away. Disable their weapons and engines. Keep them alive. Daniel relayed the order to his attack wing. You heard the Admiral. Precision strikes only. We want prisoners, not corpses. The human ships danced around the Krellian fleet like water flowing around stones. The Krellians fired their weapons, but they were shooting at where the human ships had been, not where they were. Every time a Krellian vessel tried to coordinate with its neighbors, the communication failed. Every time they tried to form a defensive position, human ships appeared behind them and struck at their engines. Zex then watched in horror as his fleet fell apart. Ships drifted helplessly, with their engines dead. Weapons went silent as power systems were targeted and destroyed. Not a single human vessel had been hit. Not one. This is impossible, he whispered. This cannot be happening. A human ship appeared directly in front of his viewport, so close that he could see the markings on its hull. It hung there for a moment, as if looking at him. Then it fired. The Eternal Claw shuddered as precise strikes took out its weapons and engines. Lights flickered, gravity shifted. Then everything went still. Zexthan's ship was dead in space, along with every other vessel in his fleet. The battle had lasted 7 minutes. An hour later, a shuttle docked with the Eternal Claw. Krellian warriors raised their personal weapons, ready to fight the boarding party to the death. But when the airlock opened, only one human stepped through. Laura Mitchell walked into the enemy ship with no weapon in her hands and no fear on her face. She had once stood before the Galactic Council and begged for humanity's acceptance. She had been humiliated and sent away. Now, she was walking onto the flagship of the fleet that had imprisoned her people. And she was walking alone. Zexes then ordered his warriors to stand down. There was something in this human's eyes that told him fighting would be pointless. They had already lost the only battle that mattered. Laura stopped in front of the Krellian commander. He was taller than her by half a meter, covered in hard black armor, with claws that could tear through metal. 6 months ago, he had called humanity a disease. Now he was looking at her like she was a monster from his worst nightmares. You will pay for this, he said. But his voice had no strength in it. The Council will send 1,000 ships. 10,000. Laura shook her head slowly. Then we will disable 1,000 ships. And 10,000 after that. We will keep going until you understand. Understand what? That we never wanted this war. Your council voted for it. Your council put us in a cage. Your council decided that we were too dangerous to be free. Laura stepped closer, looking up into his dark, oily eyes. You were right about one thing. We are dangerous. But not in the way you thought. We are dangerous because we do not give up. We are dangerous because we adapt. We are dangerous because when you push us, we push back harder. Zex then said nothing. There was nothing to say. We are taking you to Thessar Prime, Laura continued. You are going to tell the council what happened here today. You are going to tell them that their blockade is over, and then you are going to tell them that humanity would like to talk. She turned and walked back toward the airlock. What if they refuse to listen? Zex then called after her. Laura paused at the door. Then we will make them listen. But I hope it does not come to that. There has been enough fighting already. I would rather make peace than war. She looked back at him one last time. But make no mistake. If the council forces us to choose, we will choose war. And we will win. The great hall of Thessar Prime had never been so quiet. High Arbiter Veltorak sat frozen in his chair, his crystalline skin flickering with colors that showed his confusion and fear. Around him, the representatives of the 12 council species stared at the holographic recording that floated in the center of the chamber. They were watching the battle for the third time. 300 Krellian warships, the pride of the galaxy's most powerful military force, becoming helpless in less than 7 minutes, not destroyed, not damaged beyond repair, simply stopped. Like toys being put away by a child who was tired of playing. This recording must be false, Ambassador Thexvar said, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. Human technology could not have advanced this far. They are a primitive species. They could not possibly. The recording is real. Every head in the chamber turned toward the entrance. Commander Laura Mitchell walked in, her boots clicking against the polished floor. But she was not alone. Admiral Patricia Pearson walked beside her, along with a delegation of 10 humans in military and civilian dress. And behind them, escorted by human guards, came Zexthan himself. The Krellian commander who had led the blockade fleet now stood before the council as evidence of humanity's power. His armor was dented. His eyes were dull. He looked like a creature who had seen something that broke his understanding of the universe. Tell them, Laura said gently. Tell them what you saw. Zex then stepped forward. His voice was hoarse. It is true. All of it. They appeared from nowhere. They moved in ways I cannot explain. They talked to each other without any delay, coordinating perfectly while we could not even contact the ship next to us. We never had a chance. We were never going to have a chance. Silence. Then the Velketh ambassador, a being of pure golden light, pulsed with agitation. If your power is so great, why do you come here to talk? Why have you not simply destroyed us? Patricia stepped forward. Her silver hair caught the light, and her eyes were calm and steady. Because destruction was never our goal. We wanted membership in this council. You denied us. We wanted freedom to travel the stars. You imprisoned us. We wanted to be treated as equals. You called us a disease. She paused, letting her words sink in. You left us no choice but to demonstrate our strength. But strength without wisdom is just violence. We did not come here to threaten you. We came here to give you a second chance. High Arbiter Veltorak finally spoke. His voice was quiet, uncertain. A second chance. To do what? To vote again, Laura said. 7 months ago, this council voted against Earth. You decided that humanity was too dangerous to be free. Today, you have seen just how dangerous we truly are. She looked around the chamber, meeting every alien gaze without flinching. The question is, what do you want to do about it? Thexvar's mandibles clicked rapidly. You expect us to simply accept you now? After you humiliated our fleet? After you proved that we were right to fear you? Laura shook her head. We expect you to understand that fear was always the wrong response. Yes, humans are capable of terrible violence. But we are also capable of mercy. Every ship in Zexthan's fleet is still intact. Every crew member is still alive. We could have turned them all to ash in seconds. We chose not to. The harmonious collective, speaking through a single representative body, raised a delicate hand. Why? Why show mercy to those who imprisoned you? Because that is not who we are, Patricia said. We fight when we must. We defend ourselves when attacked. But we do not destroy simply because we can. The galaxy is vast. There is room for all of us. Why should we fill it with graves when we could fill it with friends? For a long moment, no one spoke. The aliens looked at each other, communicating in ways humans could not see or understand. Then Veltorak rose from his seat. You speak of friendship, he said. But how can we trust you? How do we know that this mercy is not just a tactic? That you will not turn your weapons on us the moment it suits your purposes? Laura had expected this question. She had thought about it for months, during all the long nights when she could not sleep. Now she gave the only answer that mattered. You cannot know for certain. Trust is never certain. It is a choice. It is a risk. She spread her hands. 12 species sit on this council. Each of you has fought wars. Each of you has made peace with former enemies. You know that trust must begin somewhere. She pointed at Zexthan. This commander called my people a disease. He wanted to destroy Earth completely. Now he is standing in this chamber, alive and unharmed, because we chose to let him live. If that is not enough proof of our intentions, then nothing will ever be enough. Thexvar rose slowly to his full height. For a moment, Laura thought he was going to attack her. Then he did something she never expected. He bowed. I spoke against your species, he said. I called for your containment. I celebrated when you were rejected. His voice cracked. I was wrong. I was afraid, and my fear made me cruel. I do not know if we can ever be friends, but I will not be your enemy any longer. One by one, the other ambassadors followed his lead. The golden light of the Velketh dimmed in respect. The harmonious collective bent its many heads. Even Veltorak stepped down from his high seat and approached the human delegation. The council recognizes its error, he said. We ask what humanity requires to consider peace. Patricia smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. We require only what we asked for in the beginning. A seat among you. A voice in the galaxy's future. The right to travel, to trade, to grow alongside you as equals. And the technology you have shown today? Veltorak asked. Will you share it? In time, Patricia said. When trust has been built. When we know each other better. For now, know only that we will use it to defend ourselves and to help those who need help. Not to conquer, not to control. Laura looked around the chamber at the beings who had once condemned her species. 7 months ago, she had stood on this same floor and watched them vote to imprison humanity forever. Now, they were bowing to her. Now they were asking for peace. It was not victory. It was something better. It was a beginning. 1 year had passed since the reckoning at Thessar Prime, and the galaxy was no longer the same. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had been rebuilt. Where once there were 12 seats arranged in a circle, now there were 13. The new seat, positioned at the center of the chamber where petitioners had once stood alone, belonged to humanity. It was not a place of power or dominance. It was a reminder, a symbol of what had changed and why. Admiral Patricia Pearson, now officially Ambassador Pearson, walked through the halls of the station she had once entered as a conqueror. Today she moved as a colleague, nodding to alien diplomats who nodded back. A year ago, these same beings had looked at humans with fear and disgust. Now they looked with something closer to respect. Some even managed something like friendship. The changes had come slowly at first. Trade agreements, cultural exchanges, scientific cooperation. Humans shared their art and music, their literature and history. The aliens were surprised to discover that the violent species they had feared also created beauty. They were even more surprised to find that humans were genuinely interested in their own cultures, eager to learn and understand, rather than judge and conquer. But the biggest changes came from unexpected places. In a conference room on the station's lower level, Commander Laura Mitchell sat across from Zexthan. The Krellian who had once led the blockade of Earth was now one of humanity's most unlikely allies. In the months since the battle, He had become a voice for human integration, telling anyone who would listen about the mercy he had been shown and the lessons he had learned. The latest report from the Krellian homeworld, Zex then said, sliding a data tablet across the table. Public opinion toward humans has shifted significantly. Most citizens no longer support containment. Many actively support alliance. Laura nodded, studying the numbers. And the military? Zex then clicked his mandibles in what Laura had learned was a sign of amusement. The military respects strength. You showed strength. More importantly, you showed control. Any species can kill. Few can choose not to kill when killing would be easy. That is what changed their minds. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening. On a dozen worlds, human ambassadors worked to build bridges that had once seemed impossible. On Earth itself, alien visitors walked openly through cities, studying human culture with genuine curiosity. Children who had grown up seeing aliens only as enemies now played with alien children, discovering that they were not so different after all. Dr. Nathan Cole, the scientist who had unlocked the secrets of the ancient ship, now led a joint research program with scientists from 7 different species. The quantum communication technology had been shared selectively, given to those who had shown themselves trustworthy. The faster-than-light drive remained humanity's secret, but even that was beginning to change. Trust, once built, tended to grow. Not everything was perfect. Old wounds healed slowly. Some species still whispered that humans were dangerous, that the galaxy would regret welcoming them. Some humans felt that the Council should have been punished more severely for the containment vote. Peace was not a destination but a journey, and the road was often rough. On the anniversary of the original vote against Earth, a special ceremony was held in the Great Hall. All 13 species were present. All 13 flags flew from the walls, and at the center of the chamber, where she had once begged for acceptance, Laura Mitchell prepared to speak. The hall fell silent as she stepped forward. She looked around at the assembled beings, some familiar, some still strange, all of them watching her with attention and respect. 1 year ago, she began, this council voted against Earth. 12 species looked at humanity and saw violence, aggression, and danger. They decided that we should be locked away, contained, prevented from spreading through the galaxy like a disease. She paused, letting the memory settle over the room. They were not entirely wrong. Humans are capable of terrible things. Our history is written in blood. We have fought wars over resources, over beliefs, over pride. We have hurt each other in ways that should have been impossible for any thinking creature. Thexvar shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He knew what was coming next. But that is not all we are, Laura continued. We are also the species that looks at a disease and searches for a cure. We are the species that sees a broken thing and tries to fix it. We are the species that reaches out to strangers, even strangers who have hurt us, and offers a hand in friendship. She turned to face the human delegation, then back to the aliens. You feared our violence. But violence was never our greatest weapon. Our greatest weapon has always been our refusal to give up, our ability to change, our determination to be better tomorrow than we were today. High Arbiter Veltorak rose from his seat. The Council recognizes the truth of your words. 1 year ago, we made a decision based on fear. That decision was an error. He looked around at his fellow ambassadors, then back at Laura. What would humanity have of us now? Laura smiled. It was the same question he had asked a year ago, in the aftermath of the battle. Her answer was different this time. We would have you remember, she said. Remember this day. Remember what happens when fear rules over wisdom. Remember that the species you tried to destroy became the species that could have destroyed you, and chose mercy instead. She paused. And remember one more thing. This is not an ending. It is a beginning. Humanity has joined the galaxy. We have so much to learn from you, and perhaps a few things to teach as well. The universe is vast and full of wonders we have not yet discovered. Let us discover them together. The chamber erupted in sounds of approval from a dozen different species, clicks and whistles and chimes and hums, all blending together into something that sounded almost like music. Patricia Pearson watched from her seat, remembering the woman she had been a year ago. She had been prepared to fight a war that might have lasted decades. Instead, she was watching the birth of something new, a galaxy where humans and aliens worked together, a future where fear had been replaced with hope. Later that evening, as the celebrations continued around her, Laura stood by a window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, on a planet she had never visited, alien children were learning about Earth for the first time. Somewhere out there, scientists from different worlds were solving problems that none of them could have solved alone. Somewhere out there, the descendants of ancient enemies were becoming friends. Zex then appeared beside her. "You look thoughtful," he said. Laura nodded. "I was thinking about what comes next. We proved that humanity belongs here. But belonging is just the start. Now we have to figure out what to do with it." The Krellian made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Knowing your species, I expect you will do something unexpected. Something that surprises everyone. Something that changes everything again." Laura smiled. "That is the human way." She looked back out at the stars. A year ago, they had seemed like prison walls. Now they looked like doors waiting to be opened. The galaxy had voted against Earth. That decision had been their last error. Because now humanity was here, and they were just getting started.